Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports.
Hello out there. This is Ben Dickerson. I'm your co-host, and I'm angry. I'm angry because I picked two games that I picked completely wrong, and in the back of my mind, I knew they were wrong. On top of the fact that I was really expecting a tremendous week this past weekend. It wasn't as great as I thought. There were some fantastic finishes, and there were some very high-scoring games, but I had 8 wins and 6 losses, so I'm angry. So let's get this over with.
Oh man, I had 9 wins, so I wasn't much better, you know. Considering 2 weeks ago we were at 100%, then last week I was below 50, but I'm getting back to mean. So, and we're talking about the Bias Plus report, where we show what's favored. We're getting ready to go through that in a few minutes. We're going to do a review of week 9 in the NFL as we look at the Bias Plus reports for week 9. Then we're going to do the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, where we'll look at each one of the factors that we calculate into the Bias Plus report. That would be turnover differential. That would be points against, points for, and the great net points, which is what it's basically centers around. And then after that, we will look at the Bias Plus report for week 10, where we make our picks in the upcoming matchups. Ben, last week, there was the shocker was Monday night. So we know you'll cover that. There were a few games that were pretty much what we thought, but then there was a few that were just wouldn't have thought that it was going to go like that. And I think that I'm getting really good at picking the intriguing game of the week.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I thought there were a couple, but you're usually on point.
That was a hummer, that game, and we'll talk about what that game was. So, Ben, let's get ready to get started with last week. And we'll start with the first game, which was San Fran at Green Bay. Now, the Bias Plus score was only zero point 0.4, and it favored Green Bay. San Fran has been hanging in there, man, a little bit on defense. But now that Nick Mullins is leading the team, man, I'm just not feeling comfortable. Oh, and by the way, look what I got.
Oh, you got your Gator.
I got my Gator. I got my Gator.
Okay,
Yes,
very
I
nice.
did.
Very nice.
So I was trying to just make sure everybody saw my San Fran Gator. It'll be up like this. Yes, baby. And you know, it's funny because I ordered my wife and mine's at the same time. Of course, she got the Eagles one. Hers came like 2 weeks ago. Mine's was like back ordered. They couldn't get it, but you know, it's the Niners. It's high
You know,
demand.
there's more Niners fans out there in the
You
world.
know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm glad I finally got it, and I'll be proudly wearing it very soon. But okay, let's take a look at it. Green Bay, San Fran. Green Bay was favored. What do you have on it?
Okay, so at the time we made our picks last week, I did not know about the plethora of players from the 49ers that were going to miss the game because of either injury or COVID. I knew at the time, however, this is why I'm angry. I knew I should have picked Green Bay, but for some reason, I was feeling good about the Bias Plus, and I thought, you know what, Bear? I know you're rooting hard for your team every week. I'm gonna try to give them the nod this week. And then I saw the injury report and all the guys and all that. This guy's got COVID. This guy's got to go in isolation because he was close to him, and this, that, and the other. It was crazy. So the Niners offense was just simply unequipped to compete with the Packers. The defense had absolutely no answer for Aaron Rodgers, and he lit them up for 305 yards and 4 touchdowns on 25 of 31 passing. And that basically was all she wrote.
You know, I like listening to the people talk about the game because a lot of times they seem like they have a hard time taking into account the level of the competition. Because Aaron, I mean, the throws he was making and how good he looked, I mean, it was crazy, you know? He's just firing them up. Nick Mullins, man, it was times when we both said last week that we thought he looked good. I actually went on Madden. I'm playing with Nick Mullins. Naturally, he's rated like in the 60s on the game. And the passing is just not crisp. It's not there. And it seemed like it wasn't there either. So, you know, but hey, you know, we were playing with third, fourth stringers for the most part. There was only a few guys, you know, it happens like that. Can't cry over spilt milk. I'm just glad that, you know, we're still ranked as high as we are. So moving right along to the next game, Denver at Atlanta. Bias plus score, 4.4 favors Atlanta.
And I picked Atlanta, and Atlanta won the game. So I was very happy about that one. So Matt Ryan continues to lead the league in passing yards and had another great day through the air. He completed 25 of 35 for a solid 284 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did throw 1 interception. His long ball was on display all day. 3 long scores going for more than 20. Well, 3 scores went for more than 20 yards. 1 was a 51-yard bomb. He looked really good, especially with the long ball. Drew Lock had his first 300-yard game in his career. So I just wanted to make sure we made note of that. But it had everything to do with volume and nothing to do with efficiency. He barely completed 50% of his passes. He went 25 of 48, 313 yards. He did throw 2 touchdowns, but he also threw an interception.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That was pretty good. What's up next? We have Seattle at Buffalo. Bias plus score 7.1 favored Seattle. Now, one thing we knew about Seattle, what did we know about Seattle that we found out and we were on to before most of the people?
That their defense was almost non-existent.
Craziness. Last week, as I look back at it, Seattle's defense was ranked 24th in the league, which is just amazing considering that, you know, their recent history. So Seattle was favored, but what happened?
Well, let me tell you. First of all, I took Seattle because I've been riding Seattle all year. I love Russell Wilson. I love the way he's playing. But like I said, these were my 2 favorite teams to watch this year besides, you know, my Giants. But for watching pleasure and for the players that they have, these are my 2 favorite teams. I love Russell Wilson. I love Josh Allen. Okay. And I was expecting big things from both teams. And so far, they haven't disappointed me. The Bills were able to win the game 44-34. This would have been my pick for intriguing game of the week. So I think I would have had a good one here also. Now, I got a lot to say about this one, so I'm just going to blow through it, okay? Neither team could sustain a ground game of note. And both teams have challenged secondaries. So suffice it to say that this game was without a doubt Russell versus Josh. Now, Russ had found it necessary to throw 40 or more passes in a game 3 times this season. So he's only thrown 40 or more passes 3 times in a game this season. One of those games was a win over Dallas, who we know is horrible. That was in week 3. But the other 2 were losses to Arizona in week 7 and Buffalo in this game. So that's something to note. Over 40 passes, 2 losses out of 3 times. Okay. He also has thrown 2 interceptions or more in 2 games. Only 2 games has he thrown 2 interceptions or more. Those 2 games were the Cardinals game, a loss, and this one against the Bills. Both losses. Now, Buffalo's 2 losses were to the Titans and the Chiefs, teams with dynamic playmakers on offense and superior running games. Josh was not efficient in either one of those games and was picked off in both of them, twice in the Tennessee game. And I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a correlation between challenged defenses and the pressure that it puts on quarterbacks and offenses, no matter how good they are. I think that's what I'm trying to say, and I hope that's the way it's coming off, because that is what I'm trying to say. Now, that being said, in a high-intensity air show with the Seahawks falling behind early, Russell Wilson was 28 of 41 for 390 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he was sacked 5 times, and he threw 2 interceptions, and he lost 2 fumbles. That's bad. And this is from a team that I think when we get to the power rankings, we'll find I think they had a decent turnover ratio. I believe they had a decent turnover ratio up to this point. So that's something that doesn't usually happen, but it did, and it kind of spelled doom for the Seahawks. Now, conversely, Josh Allen came out hot. He threw 3 touchdown passes in the first half. He added a rushing score in the fourth quarter to finish with 4 touchdowns total. On a very efficient 24 of 28, very efficient 24 of 28 for 288 yards. He was sacked 7 times, which is a big plus for the Seahawks defense, but he didn't commit any turnovers. So that was the main thing. And I believe that he was a little challenged with the turnovers. He had some sack fumbles during the season, but he did very well protecting the ball in this game.
Well, that's your guys, the Buffalo Bills, you know. So to me, I can see why that would be an intriguing game for you, because 2 teams, 2 of your favorite teams right there going at it, right?
Right.
That's what you call a Zoom pause, right? All right, next up, Chicago at Tennessee with a bias plus score of 5.2, favorite Tennessee. The Titans, and we knew that this might be a bit of a head knocker because you had a decent defense and you had that Tennessee run game. What'd you have last week?
So I picked the Titans. The Titans did win the game 24-17. So now that you know that, pretend you didn't know that. So if I told you that the Bears defense came to town and held Ryan Tannehill to 10 pass completions on 21 attempts for a measly 158 yards and held running back Derrick Henry to a measly 68 yards on 21 solid carries and no touchdowns, you might say, what? Uh-oh, oh my, look out, Chicago defense. You might say a lot of things. But guess what? The Titans are now 6-2. And although Tannehill has only gone over 300 yards passing this season, 2 times, I believe, at least 2. Yeah, right. I didn't write that down, but I meant to. And I believe he's only done it twice. But he has thrown at least 2 touchdown passes in every single game. So you're not going to find him on the list of passing leaders yardage-wise, okay, nor attempts-wise. But the guy finds the end zone. And, of course, we know that's the most important thing. And he's only thrown 3 interceptions all season, which is also great. And, again, this is part of the emergence of Tannehill that started last year and seems to be continuing this year. And like I said, he did it again on Sunday. He threw 2 touchdowns. And this Sunday he had 0 turnovers. So Tannehill continues to point the way toward the playoffs for the Titans with Derrick Henry bringing up the rear.
Balance. Sounds like balance to me.
Yes.
You know? And that's a recipe for success, no matter which way you go. So, all right. And you went with Tennessee?
Yes, I did.
All right.
Well, you know, I'm not real excited about betting on Nick Foles.
You're not.
Keep it real simple. I mean, I knew it was going to be a tough game because the Bears defense is pretty good, but nah. What do we got up next? Are we looking at Ravens Colts?
Ravens Colts up next, eh? I tell you, I was kind of looking forward. This was a possible intriguing game for me. Only 0.9, less than 1 point on average in terms of a bias plus score. Less than 1 separating these two teams in over 9 games. That's like 9 differentials, 9-point differential. So these two teams look to be pretty close, and Indianapolis has a pretty good defense. So the Baltimore was favored in the bias plus, and who did you have?
I took an L on this one, and this one kind of surprised me. I took the Colts. They lost the game 24-10. Very surprising to me. I can't. This one really had me fooled, but I'll say this. At least the Colts defense showed up for this one, okay? They loaded up the box. They held J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards to a combined 53 yards on the ground. Great job. Although Edwards did score a touchdown, Lamar Jackson had a little more success on the ground, but he had very little success through the air. He threw 19 passes for 170 yards, which is not even fair to Midland. That's kind of poor. He's been struggling, and I don't think they've got it figured out yet, but I suggest they hurry up and get it figured out because that's going to be a problem. He was able to generate 58 yards and a touchdown on the ground, 13 carries. So he ran more and had more yards than the two running backs had combined. The Ravens defense recorded a touchdown on a recovered fumble that they returned for 65 yards. Very exciting play. That was early in the game. And then they completely shut down Phillip Rivers and the Colts offense. So your whipping boy got really, really whipped. And if I remember correctly, on the fumble, I believe it was on the fumble return, he attempted to make a tackle and ended up looking like the old man that he is. So I've been trying to talk really nice about Phillip Rivers, but the guy's like 93 years old and he has like 27 kids and he's going to have to retire sooner or later. So, you know, any more games like that, and this might be his last season.
His turf monster fall actually rivaled Daniel Jones. At least Daniel was running at full speed.
Right.
He turned around and just like fell down.
Phillip Rivers doesn't have full speed. He doesn't have a speed.
Oh my goodness. I was like, holy mackerel, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Okay. Who's up next? Carolina at Kansas City. Kansas City was a 15.3 bias plus score in their favor. But, you know, early in the game, Carolina looked like they wanted to do something.
Dude, I never would have thought that this would be an intriguing game, but this might have been the best game of the week simply because picking the Chiefs is kind of a no-brainer. But the Panthers almost pulled this one out. They almost shocked them boys. I'm going to tell you this. It was 33-31. I did have the Chiefs. At long last, we got to witness the long-awaited return of Christian McCaffrey. I was so happy. I had him in a lot of fantasy leagues. He was basically well, let me just keep going. He suffered a high ankle sprain in week 2, but came back Sunday with a vengeance. He was the consensus #1 fantasy pick in just about every single draft, in every single category, in every single fantasy league there was in the universe. Okay, so him being out this long has been really rough on people to spend a #1 pick on him. But like I said, he came back with a vengeance. He ran the ball 18 times, so much for weaning him back in. He got 69 yards on the ground. They threw him 10 passes, and he caught all 10 of them for an additional 82 yards, and he scored on the ground and through the air. That guy is a great player. Christian McCaffrey is not a joke. Speed, hands, moves. I don't want to use the word power, but I will use the word strength. Okay? I love Christian McCaffrey. Now, the inspired Panthers went up 14-3 by the second quarter. So early in the game, they're up on the Chiefs, 14-3. But the Chiefs battled back, and the game went to the wire. Teddy Bridgewater, a.k.a. Teddy Checkdown, threw screen passes, swing passes, and a bunch of shallow crosses and curls all day long, and marched the Panthers up and down the field, kept the Chiefs defense on their heels. The Panthers D basically shut down the Chiefs running game, in fact. Unfortunately, they were playing against Patrick Mahomes, and they had no answer for him. It wasn't easy, but he was able to pull out the victory, 30 of 45, 372 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I don't care how good your defense plays, they will always be the hunted when they're playing against Patrick Mahomes.
He also, talking about Teddy, flew through the air with the greatest of ease on that one play. I don't know if you saw.
Man,
he went leaping into the air and just, he got that first.
Man. He was feeling it. In the back of his mind, he's like, yo, if I can beat the Chiefs.
It just scares me knowing his background. There's certain people, you know, that I'm looking at and I feel fearful when they start running and they start, you know, running around like that. And that's one of them. And sadly, as you were saying, the Chiefs seem to be a 5-speed vehicle. Everybody else is a 4-speed vehicle. So
right.
Coming at the end of that race and you go to click that extra gear and it ain't there, but they do have it. So, you know, it's kind of crazy, but that's just the way it is. And make sure, talking to the audience out there, that you come back to us for the commentary where we show you one of the craziest plays that you'll ever see by the Chiefs, something that I've never seen happen before. And it was amazing, and it scored a touchdown. So stick with us for the commentary side. Okay, up next, let's see here. We have Detroit at Minnesota. Now, I had a 3 game streak going on there where the bias did, where the bias was hitting on all of those games, and it came to an abrupt stop on this game. Bias plus score 1.3. Again, close, but it favored Detroit and not my #1 favorite whipping boy. But my #1 favorite whipping boy now has a partner that is just handling all of the heavy lifting. So he doesn't really have to do much at this particular point, especially when you're playing, you know, a team such as Detroit. What can I say? What did you have on that?
Exactly what I was going to say. And as angry as I was at myself, it does my heart good to know that the bias got this one wrong, but I got it right. I picked the Vikings. They won the game 34-20. Now, it used to be when a conversation about the Vikings came up the name Kirk Cousins would quickly come up right after, especially if I was having a conversation with you. Not anymore. Dalvin Cook rushed 22 times for 206 yards, 2 touchdowns, one of which was in the fourth quarter on a 70-yard gallop. Boy was out. I don't even know why they bothered to try to chase him. Forget about it. He also caught 2 passes for a total of 46 yards, just for good measure. So from now on, if you haven't already, and people that play fantasy and Minnesota fans, of course, and my man Ronnie Diggs, I'm sure, have been talking about Dalvin Cook quite a bit. He basically is the Minnesota Vikings.
Sure enough, man. And I have to give you credit. I remember when you asked me, who I would choose and in terms of a running back. And you were definitely on the Dalvin side. And I was with Ingram with the Ravens, who up to that point, they were averaging about the same amount. I know they're not averaging the same amount this season, that's for sure.
Not at all. Not even close. Not even close.
Not even close, man. I mean, he is showing off out there, man. And so naturally, all Kirk Cousins has to do is not lose it, not do something dumb, not turn the ball over. And so far, so good with that. All right. This next game was also a loss for the Bias. The Bias favored the Washington football team with a Bias plus score of
better and better.
7.
I'm feeling better and better. Not only did I win this game, but the Bias picked against my team. I took my team, and they came through. I love it. Giants 23, Washington football team 20. Now, okay, it's the Washington football team. They got all kinds of problems. Got rid of Dwayne Haskins. Not got rid of him, but they basically said, dude, you can't win games for us. Went to Kyle Allen. He had some success. Then early in the game, he gets an ankle injury. And
I text you on that too, didn't I?
Yeah.
Y'all heard Kyle. His injury looked almost like Dak's.
Yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly. And he got away with a little fracture and a dislocation. He was lucky.
Okay. Not as bad as Dak's.
Not as bad as that. Dak's fracture was pretty bad.
Okay.
In fact, I think they called it a compound fracture. That was bad. But he has a small fracture and a dislocated ankle, so he came through it pretty good. He was replaced by Alex Smith. Now, I know Alex Smith used to be one of your favorite guys.
He was a Niner.
He played for the 49ers, right. But he ended up with the Washington team. He suffered a really bad leg injury, and consequently, after his surgery, it got infected, and it got to the point where it was life-threatening. So the guy's been out of football for 2 years trying to get that healed up and stay alive at the same time. But he pulled through. He got another NFL job, and he came out and played great. He went a very respectable 24-32, 355 yards, so his arm is still lively. He did throw a touchdown, but the much improved Giants defense sacked him twice, picked him off 3 times, and also recovered 2 fumbles during the game. So thank goodness for the Giants defense, which again is much improved. There was a time when the Giants had basically no defense at all, and we were relying basically on Eli and then Danny Dimes and Saquon, but they've done a little bit better drafting. They've picked up some free agents, and they have improved the defense, so we have something to build on now. Now, I would be remiss as a Giants fan if I did not mention that although he was sacked 5 times and only threw for 212 yards and 1 touchdown, Daniel Jones did not commit a turnover.
Oh my goodness. Mm. Yes.
Let's go Giants.
All right, is that it for the Giants?
That's it for the Giants. I don't want to say too much, but I got to talk about them in the next segment, though.
Yes. All right. Houston at Jacksonville. Bias plus score 2.1 favorite Houston. And we were back in the winning column again.
Yay.
This one. What about you?
Well, I got this one too. I did take the Texans. Jacksonville's got some weapons on offense, and I wasn't sure about this Luton guy. Minshew hurt his thumb, so this was a little tricky. But this is what I got. So Minshew's out with a thumb injury, and here's the crazy thing: word is he's not guaranteed to get his starting job back when he becomes healthy. Enter Jake Luton, drafted by the Jags out of Oregon State. He's a rookie. He may be the starter for the foreseeable future, and he represented himself very well in this game, this being his debut. He went 26 of 38, 304 yards. Very nice for your debut. He scored 1 touchdown, and he threw 1 interception. Unfortunately, he was up against the one-man gang that is Deshaun Watson, with little to no running game. And on top of that, running back David Johnson, who's not even really playing that well, sustained a concussion. Deshaun threw 32 passes, completed 19 of them, which wasn't great, but it was for 281 yards, threw 2 touchdowns. Did I say no run game? Yeah, Deshaun ran 10 times for another 50. Okay.
Luton looked good.
Luton looked good. He didn't look rattled at all.
No. Now,
is
he somebody that played in like the AAF or one of the other leagues? Did I hear that something about him?
I don't think so. I think he did.
So. Somebody did, and I'm not sure who it was that played. But okay, let's skip on that. But yeah, I thought he looked pretty good. You know, all things considered. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll tell you what. Deshaun Watson is carrying his whole team on his back because their defense isn't really very good at all. They can't stop the run. Well, they did okay against the Jags, but it wasn't great. The Jaguars have a running back named Robinson who's having a fantastic year, catching the ball out of the backfield and running it from the line of scrimmage. So that's, kudos to him. But yeah, their secondary gets torched week in and week out. The only way they can win games is for Deshaun to put the ball in the air and take them to victory. That's it. That's the only way. That's all they got.
Is Deshaun, is his name being brought up as MVP amongst all the other potential candidates?
I have not heard it very much. I think it's been kicked around a little bit, but I'd say he's down on the list as we move forward into the second half of the season. I wouldn't consider him anywhere near a front runner. What he's doing though is, after they're taking away weapons from him, especially Hopkins, the way this team is going, there's a good chance that he's just trying to build his resume so he can get out of there as a free agent.
Really? Think so?
That's how I look at it. I don't think he wants to be there. I really don't. But he's a good teammate. He's playing the good soldier. He's got Will Fuller, who's finally healthy. Will Fuller's from Philly. He's finally healthy and is playing really well. He's very explosive and catching the ball really, really well. So, and I believe when they let Hopkins go, I think I said to you, between Will Fuller and Kenny Stills and the other guy's name escapes me right now, they thought that they could make up for the loss of Hopkins. You really can't do that, but Fuller's doing his part.
Yeah, they today on the news, apparently they fired, and I'm talking about Houston, their public relations person who was one of the first females, or if not the only female, with that title. Apparently, she was highly respected, had won some awards, and in the public statement, they said that it was a problem with the cultural fit.
Mm,
And everybody's like, huh? And apparently the players did not take too well to her being fired. There'll be more coming out about that, I'm sure. It just came out like right before the show when I saw it. So yeah, they look for that in the news. So I'm not sure what they're doing over in Houston. But when you fire a woman and use the word cultural fit, it really, I know, I can see your face.
that's. I don't like the way that sounds. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye out for that.
Keep an eye out for that. Okay. Next up, Pittsburgh at Dallas. The bias plus was that the largest? Yes, it was, of the weekend. 22.1. Now, and if you've been watching the show, you've been seeing bias plus scores of 7, 5, 1.3, those type of bias plus scores. 22, excuse me, .1 favoring Pittsburgh. This was supposed to be a laugher, but it wasn't. You had another backup quarterback that came in and kind of showed up a little bit. Am I correct?
You are correct. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this one. It was supposed to be a laugher. It wasn't. It was a no-brainer as far as picking the win is concerned, though, and the Steelers won. The score was 24-19, which sounds pretty close. And in fact, for a little while it was. So I just want to point out for any Cowboys fans out there what happened that was actually good for you guys. The Cowboys put up a bit of a fight, considering how poorly they've been playing with a fourth-string quarterback, Garrett Gilbert, throwing a touchdown pass to CeeDee Lamb, and kicker Greg Zuerlein converting on 4 field goals. That's how they got their 19 points. So they're scratching and clawing, and they're trying to do what they can do. But, you know, they were totally outmanned. And the Steelers just played their basic game and took them to the woodshed, you know. There was no need to even step on the accelerator. In fact, they probably took their foot off the gas, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, you might be right about that, but I was surprised that it was as close as it was. To be quite honest with you, didn't expect that. So,
well, in order for them to kick 4 field goals, that means they had to at least be moving the ball. So that's probably the most surprising thing to me. As dominant as the Steelers defense has been playing, that they were able to move the ball with a 4th-string quarterback, and Zeke didn't play, did he? Wasn't Zeke out?
Actually,
now I didn't get to see. Well,
I need
I was
to
watching the game, but where I was, I couldn't keep my eye on it.
Yeah, I can double check that because if I remember correctly, I thought that Zeke actually did a little something.
Oh, okay.
But I may be thinking about a different game. So I'm not gonna hold myself to that.
Yeah. I tell you, for the folks out there, it's tough keeping up with all these games. You know, it really is. So I miss some things from time to time. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're all trying to keep up with these stats. But if you're out there and you have some information on Zeke, post it in the comments section. We're looking for information. We're always looking for our followers and fans to help us and make sure they keep us straight. So next up, we have my intriguing game of the week.
Oh, you picked a good one.
Huh?
You picked a good one.
Man, let me tell you, I was proud of myself on this one. Miami, the bias plus score was 0.7. It favored Miami. I thought the Cardinals were going to pull this out at some particular point in the game. But as I said, this was my bias plus. I shared it on Ben and Barry on football. And this came from my Sterling Net Point Power rankings. which is where I post this information. And it says here, bottom line, although the Cardinals are a couple points better on offense, they are a couple and 0.3 worse on defense. Adding the turnover differential favoring the Dolphins. Man, the Dolphins is just their defense is like, and they're it's hard to it's a little hard to value the offense when they keep scoring so much on defense. You know,
Right.
don't necessarily separate the points out. But long story short, Miami pulled that through. Who did you have on that?
Well, I took the Cardinals. I thought that was a safe bet. Even though the Dolphins had the bias, I understood why the Dolphins had the bias. They've been playing well. But their number one running back was out. So I thought that would hurt them. And, you know, again, they're starting Tua Tagovailoa, who is a rookie quarterback. So I figured he's got some growing pains. And, well, there was a lot of questions about Tua because he had a mediocre showing, even though he got the win against the Rams in week 8. He came out strong in this one, though. He finished with 20 of 28, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, and he scored a touchdown on a quarterback sneak. Other than that, though, their running game was really lacking. So it's good that he played that well. Kyler Murray actually outplayed Tua. As good as he played, Kyler Murray was better. Went downfield at will on the Dolphins. Now, I hadn't really taken note of this, but watching the game, and I think I watched some replays of the game, the reason the Dolphins are giving people so much trouble is they almost exclusively play man-to-man and have the DBs to do it. These cats are strapping receivers and running with them, okay?
Wow.
But it kind of backfired on them this time. What I got here is Kyler Murray threw the ball downfield really well, considering the man-to-man defense that the Dolphins were playing. He was a very efficient 21 of 26, 283 yards. He threw 3 touchdown passes, and he scrambled for a whopping 106 yards and a touchdown on 11 carries.
Wow.
106 yards on 11 carries. And I read somewhere where the fact that the Dolphins play so much man-to-man, with his speed and quickness, how he can elude the rush, his receivers were getting the DBs downfield, their backs were turned, and he was out. And he took advantage of that. That was big. Now,
That's
I
real.
know everybody.
I can tell you, just even from playing Madden, that it's a detriment when you have a running quarterback to play man-to-man.
Yes.
Because like you said, you turn your back on them. The zone where you're facing that quarterback and you keep everything in front of you at least gives you a fighting chance. But if that's what you do, that's what you do. But now the Cardinals have serious receivers.
Yes.
You know, thanks to what, the Texans?
Yeah, right.
You know, so yeah, you can't take those guys lightly. And the game that's coming up that we'll be talking about for this coming weekend is again a game where the Cardinals are playing, and we're going to have to really keep an eye on them guys, man, because that NFC West is no joke, and this is a division game coming up. All right.
Well, let me just say one more thing.
Uh-huh.
Intriguing game it was, all the way down to the final seconds. The Cardinals should have won the game, but Zane Gonzalez, the field goal kicker, who is pretty steady, the guy's having a good season, kicked a 49-yard field goal, and it was short. I cannot remember the last time I saw a kicker in the NFL come up short on a field goal that was less than 50 yards long. I've seen him go wide left. I've seen him go wide right. I've seen him hit the upright, but never fall short. That guy, and I watched Kyler Murray's post-game interview. he was beside himself. He drove them down for that game-winning field goal. And when it fell short, I know his heart dropped. I don't even know. I don't even know how Zane Gonzalez can show his face in the complex this week. That's a heartbreaker. That one was a heartbreaker. They deserve that win.
Well, yeah, and he was home. So it wasn't like he was at some different field or something like that. So, okay, all right. Let's see what we got next.
Oh.
We got a couple other games that we're going to cover that was before this Sunday night game, but we're here. Let's talk about it.
I don't have a lot to say about this one.
Bias Plus score 9.6 favored Tampa Bay. I don't know if the Saints, well, first of all, I think the Saints outcoached Tampa Bay.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree.
And I think that the question about Tampa Bay's defense now is going to be their ability to cover the short and intermediate pass.
Right.
Which is the strength of Drew Brees.
Right.
So we're going to watch closely in the second half of the season to see whether or not they either tighten that up or the other teams, the copycat league that they are, begin to implement those concepts in their own offenses and not necessarily look to go deep, because again, that rush is usually pretty fierce. So if you get the ball out of your hands quick, you can obviously, what Drew showed you is you can move the ball, and they had a pretty good diversity. I know you'll talk about it in terms of, the run, in terms of they're the only team who seems to ignore the rule that if you have two quarterbacks, you have none.
Well, it helps if your other quarterback can do like 10 other things.
It does, doesn't it? What did you have on that?
Well, basically, the Saints came out and jumped on these boys. I mean, they just came out and jumped on them. The defense was harassing Tom Brady ungodly, okay? Constantly harassing him, hitting him, forcing him into bad throws, missing wide open receivers, throwing the ball in the tight windows when he didn't have to, when he had other receivers open on the field that he didn't see. Tom Brady is famous for being able to go through his progressions and find the open receiver. He's famous for his efficiency. He's famous for his accuracy. They took all of that away from him. It was amazing. They sacked him 3 times, and crazy as it sounds, they picked him off 3 times. Meanwhile, Drew Brees, dink, dunk, used Alvin Kamara, who didn't have a ton of yards. He had 40-plus yards. He scored a touchdown on the ground, but Drew Brees threw for 4 TD passes. Brady and them were never in it at all, ever.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Brady, yes, well, people are starting to question him again. And, after one game, and everybody, all of the pundits, everybody was Tampa Bay. So it wasn't like it was just us. We were in great company.
Bro, everybody picked Tampa Bay. But I noticed on all the sports talk shows and all that stuff today, it was a big deal about how Bruce Arians talked about Brady. Now, this is the second time that he kind of threw him under the bus, as they say, when he didn't have a good game. Here's the bottom line. People are like, oh, man, that's the GOAT. You can't talk about him like that, da-da-da. The dude had a bad game. It's not like he didn't have a bad game. He did have a bad game. But the whole risk it, no biscuit thing, I think Arians needs to rethink that. Again, and I said this before after they lost the game, and he talked about Brady, Saw Brady was really angry. That was the game. I forget who they were. Oh, they were playing the Bears. When he ran off the field and didn't shake hands. Some people said it's just because he just don't like Nick Foles. But he was really angry after that game. And I thought that they put their heads together and they came up with a better plan. But now you look at them. They are loaded with talent. They got AB. There's nothing wrong with Scotty Miller. They have Mike Evans. They have Chris Godwin. They have Fournette and Ronald Jones sharing the backfield. Their offense is and Gronk. Their offense is loaded. The problem with having a totally loaded offense is you got to share the ball. And I'm not going to say I thought so, but a lot of folks I know said it seemed to them that he was kind of trying to force the ball to AB a little bit, trying to get him in the game, trying to get him acclimated. I believe he had 7 or 8 targets, which was probably more targets than Mike Evans had. And I know if you're a Tampa Bay fan, you're probably going, no. That's not right. So we're going to have to see how they manage this, for the rest of the season. It's going to be tough. You think you'd load up your team with talent and you're going to walk through everybody. It doesn't always work that way. It just doesn't work that way.
Yep. It's called a team, and a team has to function well together. They're questioning whether or not, and you said no risk it, no biscuit, whether or not Tom should be throwing a lot more short, passes, short to intermediate passes, which is kind of his forte anyway. So, and he's not the most mobile guy, so he does have to get that ball out of his hands, and he needs to do that quickly. Okay. All right, we took a little bit of a look at the next game. Let's go to it. New England and New York.
Oh, gosh. This one was a stinker. Now, I got the win on this one. I did pick the Patriots, which wasn't that tough because the Jets are horrible, and I pretty much vowed that I will never pick the Jets this year. In fact, there's a really, really excellent chance that the Jets will not win a game this season. That being said, I had a fantasy game going where I was down by 4 points and I had the New England defense. I didn't even watch the game. I went to bed early. When I got up the next morning to check the score, I lost the game by 1. I was very upset.
Yeah, that kind of saved me. I was the bias was in the win column on that one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad the Patriots won, and I'm happy for Cam, but the New England defense is starting to look like they're not quite what they were talked up to be. They've had a couple of pretty weak games there. But anyway,
they're not. They number one, they had probably the most people opt out on the COVID in the beginning.
Yeah, then Gilmore was out for this one too.
Yes, I mean they're operating at probably less than 50%.
Yeah. But Cam was pretty solid anyway. Cam was solid. He was 27-35. He threw for 274 yards. He didn't throw any touchdowns, and he missed a lot of downfield throws. He still doesn't seem to be quite acclimated with this offense, but he's trying and he's doing the best he can.
What was his percentage?
I didn't figure out the percentage. 27-35. That's not horrible. In fact,
that's pretty bad. No, I saw him make some pretty good passes.
Yeah.
And it looked like he might be starting to settle in a little bit. Push come to shove when they need it, and he's running the ball. He's getting that first down with those quarterback sneaks. It's hard to stop him.
He's always going to have that.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. But Tom Brady was one of the greatest in the quarterback sneaks category. He was really good at it, and now the Patriots have another guy who's really good at it. So that makes a difference. As long as you can keep
does it a different way, but yeah, that's true. Now, when I'm saying that he missed several downfield throws, he actually did. But you got to remember, as efficient as he was at 27 for 35, and then I turn around and say he missed a lot of downfield throws, he was playing the Jets, okay? So he had even more opportunities to complete passes, especially long balls, and he overthrew them, underthrew them, just missed guys. So again, he's got some tightening up to do. Okay, as far as throwing the ball is concerned, but he did run for 2 scores, so that was a good thing. Now the totally dreadful Jets actually put up a good effort behind Joe Flacco. Good old Joe Flacco, 262 yards and 3 touchdown passes, and he actually held a 10-point lead at the end of the third quarter. So the Patriots kind of had to scramble to come back and get back in this one.
Did not lay down.
It did not. But Flacco threw an interception late. Patriots got the ball back. That pretty much spelled doom for the winless Jets.
It was the statue Flacco that showed up late in the game. You know, and that's part of the challenge with that guy. But yeah, he didn't have a bad game at all. So
no, not at all.
All right. Next up, LA. This was the last loss.
Oh, no. We're not going through that again.
Loss versus the loss. 1.6 favored the loss, I believe, the Chargers. What did you have on this?
I was bad on this one. So I took the Chargers. I'm thinking, okay, they're home, even though home doesn't mean that much. But Justin Herbert has been playing lights out. I've got him on a couple fantasy teams. This guy gets me numbers week in, week out. They're not winning, but he piles up the numbers. So I love Justin Herbert. I'm thinking if there's any team that he can really take advantage of, this might be it. He should be able to beat the Raiders. So I really based my pick on Justin Herbert. And it didn't happen for me. They're 2-6 now, which is really bad. Their coach is on the hot seat. I mean, at this point, I just want to keep this one fantasy. Like Justin Herbert, since taking over in week 2, is making a serious run for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's thrown multiple touchdowns in 5 of his 7 starts. He's totaled 17 passing touchdowns, 2,146 yards, and he's only thrown 5 interceptions so far this season. So hats off to Justin Herbert. Derek Carr didn't do much in this one. I don't even have anything really to say about him. They kind of took it easy on Josh Jacobs. Yeah, this wasn't much of a game either, to tell you the truth. I feel bad for my man. I hate when I go blank on the coach of the
for the Chargers.
Yeah.
It's
not looking good for him. It's not looking good for him. It really isn't. And he can't blame it on Tyrod getting hurt and having to play a rookie because the rookie has really stepped up.
The rookie has looked great.
Yes.
He's in the running for Rookie of the Year with his numbers. You actually have a nice rookie class this year, if you really think about it.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Burrow, Herbert, Tagovailoa.
Maybe Luton. Right.
You know, not bad. The future looks like fun in the NFL. All right. That pretty much wraps it up. I didn't miss anything, did I?
No, I don't think so. We got them all.
We got them all this time. All right. That wraps up the review portion for week 9 of the 2020 NFL season. Stay tuned. We'll be moving into the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, where we will be looking at the rankings for all 34 teams. There's 34 of them now. All 32 teams.
I was going to say, you got something to tell me?
And we'll be looking at the 4 most important categories as far as we're concerned. So hang in there with us. All right, Benny. So again, this is Ben and Barry on football. We're going to cover the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. We're going to look at the 4 different columns. We're looking at our friend Todd, turnover differential, points against, points for, and then point differential. which is really the key to what we do in the net point power rankings. So we'll be looking at net points. All right, let's get started with turnover differential. So for all 32 teams, Ben, you can kind of see who's leading in turnover differential. Again, turnover differential means the difference between your takeaways and your giveaways. So on the right-hand column, we see the New York Giants in 17th place at an even 0, tied with the Jets and the Arizona Cardinals, who are in 15th and 16th place in the left-hand column. Everybody else in the right-hand column is in the negative, but they're not that far off at 0.1 through 0.5 until you get down to about Washington, Denver, Philadelphia, and Dallas is the only team in the negative that is in a greater than 1 status at minus 1.4. On the positive side, on the left-hand side, we see Tennessee at number 1 at 1.2 as a turnover differential. That's a plus 1.2. So over 9 games, you're looking at plus 9 turnovers going toward the Tennessee Titans. So that's a strength for them. Right behind them is Kansas City and Pittsburgh at 0.9. Right behind them at 0.6, you have Miami and Tampa Bay. You have a number of 0.5s in Indianapolis, Baltimore, and Cleveland. Seattle and Green Bay are both at 0.4. Carolina and Buffalo 0.3, and New Orleans and Atlanta at 0.2. So there's your turnover differential. That comes into play when we calculate the bias plus. It is the plus in the bias plus. So Ben, as far as turnover differential is concerned, anything you got to say about this?
Just a couple of things. First of all, Dallas is last. They're a mess. We know that. Not only can they not stop anybody, but they don't get any turnovers. And they've thrown interceptions. They've had a lot of fumbles. Philadelphia is a mess, mainly because of Carson Wentz, who leads the league in interceptions. I spoke earlier about the Seahawks and the fact that they take care of the ball pretty well, or they have up until that game. He threw 3 interceptions in the Bills game. So I don't know where he was last week, but he's number 9 now. So he's dropped a little bit. Still on the positive side, but not as good as they were doing before. And of course, Tennessee, when I talked about their game, I noted that Tannehill does not throw many interceptions and Derrick Henry does not fumble. So they're going to stay on the plus because they got a hard-hitting defense. They're going to get turnovers, but they do not give them. Their offense takes care of the ball.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And that plays such a big part in anything that you're doing as a team in terms of turnovers. Turnovers equal points in a weird sort of way. There is actually a calculation out there that relates those two. I don't use it necessarily, but I do calculate that in terms of what we do. All right. Next up, we have defense wins championships. Points against. So again, we're looking at 1 through 32. Let's go to 32 and just knock Dallas right out. They are historically bad, giving up 32.2 points per game. That's
horrific. The word is horrific.
Horrific. Absolutely. And the surprise is, look who's number 30. Now, if there's a reason that that Russell could be considered as MVP, it's that number right there, because he's getting no real help from his defense. Anytime your defense is worse than the Jets and you're trying to be a playoff contender, you know that there's got to be a problem. I mean, the Jets are coming in at 27. Minnesota is another one of those teams that I thought would be a little bit better. They're coming in at 25. Minnesota, Cleveland, and the Jets are all giving up close to 30 points a game at 29. Vegas is giving up more points than Atlanta I mean, Atlanta was struggling so much, but they've really tightened up their game a little bit. And you got to like that. I'm surprised that the Chargers aren't lower but they basically find a way to give up the more important points at the end of the game, but they're only giving up 27. And I say only, that's actually 10 more than the number one team. Your Bengals are not much better at 26.8. This is one of our surprises that Buffalo is giving up 25 points a game. They're actually right there with Philadelphia at 0.3 difference between them and Philadelphia, giving up 25.6. And another team that has aspirations but defensively has questions is the Green Bay Packers, giving up 25.5 points per game. Now on the left-hand side, Tennessee at 16, they're giving up, along with Carolina at 15, 25.1, and the Saints giving up 25 points per game. I know the Saints probably moved up because of how well they played against Tampa Bay, really holding Tampa Bay in check. And surprisingly, there they are, your New York Giants.
Yeah.
13. Right there with New England, giving up a little over 24 points per game. My Niners at number 10 are right there with the Washington football team at about 23 points. We're looking at Arizona and Tampa Bay giving up a little at over 22.5. Chicago, 21. Kansas City, now we're getting into your top 10. Actually, a top 6. Kansas City rounds out number 6 at 20.3. Miami and Pittsburgh tied at 20.1, not far off of the number 3 team, Indianapolis, at 20. And then your top 2. I didn't expect the LA Rams to be number 2. That was kind of a surprise for me. And then Baltimore rounding out first place at 17.8. So your top 5 was Baltimore, the Rams, the Colts, the Steelers, and the Dolphins. The Fins. Woo!
Crazy. Now, when people look at this, don't go too crazy because they're going to see the name of a particular team. And they're going to say, oh, but they're playing so well. Oh, but they're so, my power rankings say this isn't the total power rankings. This is points against. Okay. So there could be teams that are losing quite a bit, but they're losing in close games, low scoring games, rather. There are other teams that are winning that seem to be in somewhat shootouts week after week and give up a lot of points, but always pull out the win. So it's a little tricky, but the bottom line is you do not want to be in that second half, that right-hand column, giving up 25 plus points per game. That's not where you want to be if you expect to go anywhere in the playoffs. And Seattle's in real danger of flushing a great offensive effort and a great season by Russell Wilson down the tubes if they don't do something to make this defense a little bit better. Same thing with Buffalo. It would be a shame for these guys to get in the playoffs and maybe have to go on the road somewhere or have another team come in and get in a shootout with them and end up knocking them out of the playoffs because their defense just can't get the job done. Tampa Bay, I think, is a team that it's tricky. They have a good defense, but I think I mentioned this in a previous video. There was a note taken that their secondary is loaded with really young players, first year, second year, third year guys. They're all like 24 and younger. And then whoever was talking about them spoke about their physical attributes, their size, their speed and all that. But they're still young. They're still young. So they're going to give up some points. So you may hear someone say, oh, the great Tampa Bay defense is not really great. Yeah, they're in the top 10. And yeah, they've had their way with a couple of teams, but they've got issues also. Teams that are really playing well are like that I'm a little bit surprised at is Kansas City. Kansas City doesn't really have noteworthy players on defense. other than some of the defensive linemen and Honey Badger, okay? But they play really well as a unit. They fly around. They got a lot of speed. They're very aggressive. Again, like we talked about Miami, play a lot of man-to-man, which means they blitz a lot, okay? So you're not going to score a lot of points against Miami because they pressure you quite a bit, and they make it really tough to get the ball downfield. Pittsburgh is just Pittsburgh. They're just tough. In fact, them being at number 4 instead of at number 2 is a bit surprising to me. But I see sometimes Pittsburgh kind of plays down to the competition a little bit, but I don't worry about them. The Colts have been playing well, but did not play well this past weekend. And let's not forget, I hate to say it, the Rams were on the bye, so they got a little skew, okay? But they're not playing badly.
These are averages.
Oh, they're averages?
These are
Okay,
averages.
I was going to say, they're not playing badly. Again, they don't have a great record, but they have a good record, and teams don't score on them. They keep the score low.
Notice, as far as NFC West is concerned, the Seattle is the only team in the right-hand column.
Yeah, and that could be a problem for them. And that's what I said. They may be able to win out and win the division even, but that's going to be a tall task. When Arizona comes to town, that's going to be a tall task. Well, shoot, when the Niners start getting everybody back, which probably begins this weekend, that's going to be a problem. So
it's surprising that the Niners are doing a better job defensively in terms of scoring, considering everybody that they have out. Seattle's really got to be questioned in terms of that defense. I mean, it's amazing. So, all right. And Baltimore at number 1, giving up 17.8 points per game. So they're still playing really well, and that's, I'm sure, helping Lamar.
The defensively, that's their strength. But again, they kind of have the opposite. I guess we'll talk about it when we go to points 4, because until they can start moving the ball on the ground and through the air, at least efficiently enough to keep the opposing team on their heels, they're going to run into some problems later in the season too.
Let's look at it. Points 4. Seattle, number 1. Seattle, number 1. So as bad as they were on defense, I'm just going to click back real quick. They were number 30. So you're talking about opposite ends of the spectrum, about as opposite as you can get.
It's a heavy burden to carry. It's a very heavy burden to carry, and it might be, it's a bad sign. It really is. Seahawks fans should be extremely worried.
Jets are locked in at last place in terms of scoring. Your Giants are 31st. You've mentioned that the Giants, that is their challenge. There's your NFC East partner and the Washington football team coming in at 30th. Chicago, Nick Foles rounding out 29th place. 28th place, we have Cam Newton and the New England Patriots. Your Denver Broncos at 27, Jacksonville at 26th. You're talking now that 21 to 22 points per game. That's Jacksonville and Dallas. And Dallas, man, we know that when Dak was there, they were at the top of the scoring range. So they've fallen tremendously in terms of that. And right there, NFC East. Now, wait a minute. There's your NFC East right there. Philadelphia 24, Dallas 25, Washington 30. And we're talking rankings here. And the New York Giants 31st. So there's your NFC East right there. Carolina coming in at 23.3 points per game, 24.1 for 21st and 22nd place for Houston and the LA Rams, 24.2 for Cincinnati, Detroit coming in at 24.6. My Niners are coming in at 18th place, scoring an even 25, and the Chargers at 25.6. So that rounds out the right-hand side. On your left-hand side, Cleveland Browns, 25.8 points per game at 16th place. The Colts, 26. Phillip Rivers, you're gonna have to do a little bit more. That's not going to get it done at 15th place. But look who's at 14th place. Buffalo. Let me stop there for a second.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
What, Buffalo being down at 14?
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm not too worried about that. I think that Buffalo actually is a pretty balanced squad. What they're lacking is a ground game that puts at least a little bit of fear in the opposing team's heart.
19th defensively.
I thought that, well, the 19th defensively, I'm surprised about because I expected them to be top 5 or 6 defensively. So they have issues on defense, but I think they can get them fixed. Offensively, though, the run game is lacking. This was supposed to be a breakout year for Singletary, Devin Singletary, and even Zach Moss was being touted as the type of guy because he had a lot of injuries last year. They thought that he was going to be able to push Singletary for the #1 running back spot and at least make them a really good combination or committee backfield, as they like to say. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. The Bills' offensive line, and we don't always talk about offensive line a lot. The Bills' offensive line just strikes me as a better pass blocking unit than a run blocking unit. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'll have to look into that.
Right, because those things don't always go hand in hand. And we could probably pick apart several teams on this list and say, they got a good run game, but their passing game is lacking here. There's different reasons for these kind of things to happen, but sometimes when you're talking about a run, where's Dallas? 25th? Okay, but look at their offensive line. Zeke used to be a monster. Now, people are trading him in fantasy. You know what I mean?
Wow.
The offensive line, it's not him. It's the offensive line. So, and they don't pass block or run block, but that's another story. But I think that's the deal with
Buffalo.
Buffalo, yes. Now, I would expect Tennessee to move up here. I really would, except if you remember, when I talked about Tennessee, I said Tannehill doesn't turn the ball over. That's why they're so good in turnover differential. Derrick Henry does not fumble. So they take care of the ball. But I also said they don't throw a lot of passes. They have a very, very balanced offense, extremely balanced, which offensive line is one of those rare offensive lines that can do both things. They pass block and run block really well. Same thing with New Orleans. Same thing with Pittsburgh. Same thing with Green Bay. Same thing with Cincinnati. Seattle.
Seattle, yeah. Let's run down your top 10 real quick.
Well, the higher you go, you start seeing teams that can run and pass almost equally or almost equally as well.
Well, Seattle's coming in first with 34.2 points per game. Right behind them, Kansas City, 31.8. Right behind them, Green Bay, 31.6. Fourth place, you got the Saints at 30.5. Right behind them at fifth place, the Steelers, 24.4. Right behind them, Arizona, 29.2. Tennessee coming in at an even 29. Baltimore, 28.4. Tampa Bay, 27.8. Tie with Miami's. Hey, Florida's in the house at 27.8, equal there. And then you have Las Vegas at 27.2 and 11th and 12th place, rounding out 27.1 points for the Minnesota Vikings. So, you got your 30-point players, Seattle, Kansas City, and and Green Bay. You have your sub 30-point players, Pittsburgh, Arizona, Tennessee, Baltimore, and then Tampa Bay, and I'm coming in at around 27 points per game, down to Atlanta 27. So, looking on the left hand side, those are the teams that you kind of know what you got to do when you play these teams. You're gonna have to put up some points to beat them, but in many cases, especially like in the case of a Seattle and a Green Bay, they do give you that opportunity.
Yeah, they do, because they don't hold your offense down. The challenge is to try to take something away, So when you got a quarterback like a Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers or a Drew Brees or even a Roethlisberger, and I just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? And we didn't even get into Kyler Murray, all right? When you got a quarterback like that, it's very difficult to decide what it is that you're going to try to do, because you're challenged to stop them in the passing game. And they all have decent running games, if not really good running games, with really good running backs, good run blocking offensive lines. When you talk about a team like Minnesota's a team, although you may not be successful, you kind of know what you have to do. They run block better than they pass block. Dalvin Cook carries the offense, and Cousins can be shaky. So you load up the box and you do the best you can. You hope you can get a lead and force Cousins to throw the ball to bring them back. There's a formula there, But those top 5, hard to find that formula.
Well, Dalvin Cook could care less about your formula. He's scoring, running 200 yards a game.
I understand that, but they don't win every game. Even if you could just slow him down, it has to be a combination of you slowing him down and you scoring. You can't stop him. What my man used to say, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him.
That's all you can do. All you can do. All right. And all of that adds up, points for and points against, to net points, which is the fundamental that we look at, because it takes everything into consideration. Again, net points is that only stat where not just net points, that and turnover differential, where you have negative numbers. So we'll look at the right-hand column, 17 through 32, all negative. You only have a couple negative on the left-hand side, but the Jets are bringing up the rear at a negative 16.3 net points per game. So that's about the average, the margin that they're losing by. Dallas is just under 10 and 31st place. And you've got Jacksonville coming in at 30th. You got your 5 to 6 point negative differential between Detroit, Denver, New York, and Houston. You're looking at a negative 4.4 points, net points per game for the Washington football team. Cleveland better get their act together, because, they were supposed to be a playoff team. At least people were talking about it, but at minus 3.9 points per game, they're actually worse than New England, who we figured was going to struggle at 3.5. They're 23rd place. Cincinnati, 22nd. Philadelphia, 21st. And Minnesota all at minus 2 net points per game plus. And can't be too mad. Atlanta, Chicago, Las Vegas, the Chargers, the Heartbreak Chargers, and the Carolina Panthers, all at less than 2 minus net points per game. So those are your negative net point teams. On the positives, let me give you an opportunity to say something about the negatives here. Anything about these guys?
Well, let's just remind the viewers that these are our actual power rankings. They will not look like the power rankings that you see on television, because these power rankings go by the numbers. So there is no opinion and there is
no conjecture.
Exactly. So you look at ours and then you look at the guys on TV and you're like, oh, Ben and Barry are crazy. No, we're not. There is a method to our madness. Now, one last thing before you move on, I will say, I'm going to go out on a limb and say nobody from 17 to 32 is going to win the Super Bowl. That's my hot take of the week.
That's your hot take of the week. Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't see anybody here making some enormous change in the second half of the season. No, not at this particular point. But on the left-hand side, Buffalo coming in at 14th at +1. My Niners coming in at 13th +2. Seattle and Tennessee tied at +3.9 net points per game. So again, these are scoring margins, average scoring margins. Coming in in the 5 range, you've got New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and the LA Rams all winning by an average of about 5 points per game. In the 6 range, you've got Arizona, Green Bay, and Indianapolis. That's number 5, 6, and 7 in that range of +6 points per game. I am so proud of Miami. I don't know why, because we just seen them go through what they've gone through, and here they are, number 4 in net points at +7.6 per game. And then you've got your top 3. Number 1, Kansas City at 11.4, Baltimore at 10.6. That's your number 1 and your number 2. And then number 3, Pittsburgh at +9.2 points per game. So that means Pittsburgh is winning by an average of 9, Baltimore at 10, and Kansas City 11. Nobody's up in that 14-point range. We saw a little bit of that. We saw that more last year, where you had some teams that were winning by larger margins.
That's true.
This team it's a little tighter, a little bit tighter this year with everything going on.
Yeah, it is. This has been a kind of a crazy season. Like, there's been a lot of high scoring games, but not a lot of blowouts. Okay. So even though Kansas City is stringing together wins, they're not stringing them together blowout wins. They've had their challenges and they've been in some games. But I expect them to hoover around that number 1 spot probably for the rest of the season, just because their offense is so dynamic. Baltimore is a team that could possibly drop. They've got some issues on offense. I think they're issues that they can fix, but they better get to working on it right away. I'm very disappointed with the way Lamar Jackson is throwing the ball. I don't know if it's mechanical. I don't know if he's having trouble reading defenses, or if other teams have come up with schemes that are fooling him. But they got to get it together. Him being the leading rusher on his team is not fun anymore. You know what I mean? It's getting to the point now where you start to really worry, like, is he going to catch a bad hit or something? Because he has to run so much just to get them moving. Pittsburgh, I'm not worried about too much. I expect them to hoover around the top for a while. Again, it's another team that doesn't blow anybody out, but they have enough defense to keep their feet on your neck, so to speak, and just not let you, even if they're not playing well on offense, they just don't let you catch them. And like you said, Miami, so proud of Miami. Brian Flores, the head coach there, doing really well. People were laughing at them last year, making fun of them. They were saying that Flores is lucky, that everybody knows that they're tanking for Tua, so he doesn't have to worry about his job, and they're going to give him an opportunity to try to rebuild this team. And meanwhile, he's in the back room building a defense. Now here they come. Out of nowhere, they're right back in it. So they are a very dangerous squad. Kyler Murray coming into his own in Arizona. Aaron Rodgers, need we say more? Drew Brees still hanging around. So, that's almost your top 10 there. I don't know if the Rams are going to be able to hang in there or not. They just came off their bye. I've heard some people kind of shaking their heads about Jared Goff. He's got an opportunity now to kind of turn it on here in the second half. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, he's in that tough NFC West. So.
I actually like the Rams this year. I think they have decent balance. They kind of remind me Well, I'm going to say the Raiders in that, in terms of, having a quarterback that's pretty effective, but their defense is better. And,
Yes, yes.
as long as they have that, they're hanging in with that, they'll be all right. They could possibly win that division.
I think they kind of messed up a little bit early on in the season, playing musical chairs with the running backs. They got three good running backs. Darrell Henderson is a good back. Malcolm Brown is a decent back, and he's young. He had some fumbling problems early, and then he broke his finger, but the boy can move. And the rookie, Cam Akers, another Florida State kid, just like Dalvin Cook, okay? I don't think he's actually been given a fair chance to try to even win the job. So it's kind of musical chairs or the hot hand guy or whatever, but I think they kind of got a handle on it now. So I expect them to do well in the second half of the season, or at least have an opportunity to prove themselves.
Well, all right, that wraps up the portion of the show with the Sterling Pro Football Net Point Power Rankings. Again, these rankings are purely numerical, and as we always say, no opinion,
no conjecture.
No conjecture. All right. Okay. Let's move into the Bias Plus report for week 10. Then some good games scheduled. I've already sort of started to tick off my intriguing game of the week. As usual, I haven't actually chosen it yet. But let's start out with the first game on the agenda. This is a good one. And the thing about Thursday night games and the intriguing game of the week is it's like, if I make this the intriguing game of the week, then all those other games, later in the week, I'm like, oh man, it just seemed too early to choose one. But I actually like this game, man. Bias Plus score 1.4 favors the Colts in this game. I think this is going to be a good one. And for Thursday night, people were complaining about Thursday night games.
This is one of the better ones. This is a better matchup. So when I'm picking these Thursday night games, I'm going to start concentrating a little bit more on what happened to these teams Sunday, because they are now on the short week. And being on the short week is important, and I haven't given it enough importance. So when I look back, I see the Titans having a really good game, Tannehill being very efficient, playing a team that was very difficult to run on, yet Derrick Henry still got his same volume, 21 carries. He cranked out like 68 yards. Now, he didn't score, okay? But what that tells me is they've made up their minds that this is how they're going to play, and they're not going to let anybody deter them. And if they can continue to do that and come out with the win, then there's no reason for them to change. The Colts, on the other hand, had a tough one. They took a tough loss. They're challenged offensively now. Their defense is going to have to really step up. And on a short week, having to step up with Derrick Henry is going to be tough. So I'm taking the Titans.
Going against the bias.
It sounded good, didn't it?
Huh?
It sounded like it made sense, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, that's why, when I pick an intriguing game, it really puts into question the Bias Plus report, because I'm seeing some serious potential from either side to be able to win. It's, I'm looking for a competitive game. And generally, again, it's a small bias, score. So the largest Bias Plus score so far this weekend is just under 15 points. This is 1.4. So,
right. I got you.
So just to give some, perspective on that. All right, next up, Texans at Browns. I actually like this one too. Bias Plus score 3.2 favors the Browns. The Texans have had some issues. The Browns have had some success, but both teams are in the negative in terms of net points. And what I look at in many cases are the matchups defense to offense. So when I'm looking at this particular game, what I'm seeing is the Houston's 21st ranked offense coming up against what looks to be the 26th ranked defense, and Cleveland's 16th ranked offense coming up against Houston's 29th ranked defense. So somebody's going to score some points in this game, and then the question is, how will the Cleveland look without OBJ? So what do you got on that?
Well, let me say this, and fantasy note, OBJ is now gone, but they have another receiver there who has stepped up into his spot, so to speak, Rashard Higgins. So if you get in a little trouble, there's still some teams that have some bye weeks coming up. You need a receiver. You might want to look into Rashard Higgins. Now, if he lays an egg in this next game, then I'm my bad. You know what I mean? But I like him, and I think he's going to do well. That being said, I'm going to go with Superman. I'm going to go with Deshaun. I really am. I'm going to go with Deshaun. I think Deshaun is kind of on a mission. The problem is the defense is so weak, and the Browns still have weapons. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I'm not going to mess up like I did last week and make a pick and not change it when I have a chance. I'm changing this. I believe Nick Chubb is coming back this week. If he does, I'm taking the Browns. If he doesn't, Kareem Hunt should get the job done. I'm taking the Browns. See, the whole thing with the Browns is they got to get the ground game going to take pressure off of Baker. Because when Baker doesn't feel pressure to carry the load, he throws the ball a lot better. I believe that will happen just because of the weakness of the Houston defense. I'm taking the Browns confidently.
Going with the bias. All right, there you go. Washington football team at the Detroit Lions. Now, see, this is what we call the smallest bias plus score of the weekend at 0.4. So that's less than a half a point on an average per game, separating these two teams, favoring Washington, actually, in this particular one.
Interesting.
So, this should be an interesting game. This should be an interesting game. Who do you have?
Well, sir, I'm going to put it to you this way. It's really hard to like the Lions. It's really difficult. As far as I'm concerned, and I haven't heard this yet, if somebody has, please let me know. But I think that the Lions head coach should probably be on the hot seat. If he's not already, he should be soon. There's something wrong here. Matt Stafford still has it. Galladay is a really good receiver, a top flight receiver. Hockenson, TJ Hockenson, the tight end, is a red zone threat up among the best. The defense, the defense is weak. They need work. But that's something they already knew from last year, and they should have taken care of in the offseason, at least a little bit better than they have. So I'm going to go with the Washington football team. They have the bias. I feel good about it. They had a tough loss against the Giants last week, and I think Alex Smith is going to get the job done. They got a block for him. But the Lions can't stop the run, and Antonio Gibson's doing really well. And fantasy note, J.D. McKissick is a great running back, catching the ball out of the backfield, stacking up numbers. If you need a running back this week, you might want to look at J.D. McKissick, taking the Washington football team.
All right, there you go. Going with the bias again. I don't know, man. Jaguars at Packers. Did I mention the largest bias plus of the weekend? I said it was 14, but actually it's this one, 15.5. That's over a 2-point scoring margin on average favoring the Packers over the Jaguars. But the Jaguars have the new secret weapon at the quarterback now.
don't know about secret weapon. Wow, secret weapon. That's funny. I'll say this again, fantasy. So you look at the fantasy rankings for defenses this week, and every week they change. It's usually by what the team has done and the matchup. So obviously, on the surface, this looks like a great matchup for the Packers. But the Packers haven't been playing that well on defense. So to me, it's not so much they're elevating the Packers as they're looking down on the Jaguars. Not too fast, my friend. This guy, Jake Luton's got a little something going, okay? And like I said, the Packers defense is not great, okay? I think this game's probably going to be a little closer than a lot of people think. I do believe the Packers will win. I am going to take the Packers because the Jacksonville defense is extremely challenged. But this might be a way better game than people think it's going to be. I really believe so. They have a good running game, and Luton looks like he belongs as an NFL quarterback. So much so that people are talking about Minshew not being able to get his job back. So I'm going to be watching that. I'm going to try to watch this game closely. But, yeah, I'm taking the Packers.
Well, the Jacksonville has the 31st ranked defense, and Green Bay has the 3rd ranked offense. There you go.
So I didn't even have to say all that stuff. It's Aaron Rodgers versus one of the worst defenses in the league. Boom.
There you go. That's what it adds up to. But that's why they play the game. We've seen some bigger, shocks out there. Speaking of shocks, you ready to play the Eagles?
Absolutely.
Well, the Bias Plus score 2.4 favors the Eagles.
As it should.
Okay, all right. So you see the logic in the Bias Plus, but what's going on with your opinion? You're the only one gets to have an opinion around here.
And I love it. I am taking my New York Football Giants, and not just because that's my squad. I need them to expose this madness that says the Philadelphia Eagles will win the NFC East. A couple of weeks ago, even I was saying it's going to be a sad day when a team that can probably only win 6 or 7 games wins a division. But at this point, it might not be that many, okay? How many wins do the Eagles have? 3?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I think the Eagles have 3 wins and they have a tie. The Giants have 2 wins. The Washington football team has 2 wins and could possibly win their next game.
The Eagles are 3-4-1. Giants are 2-7.
Yeah. This division could go down to the wire. And the crazy thing is, at the beginning of the season, everybody anointed the Cowboys. Even Eagle fans was like, well, I don't know. We might be able, but Dallas looks strong. Dallas may not even be in it. And it could go down to the wire. So this is great. This is wonderful. I love it. Yes, I'm taking the Giants.
If Dallas is in it, that would be so crazy. That would be just too wild.
Yeah, I would have to look at their schedule, but the only way they can be in it is to win division games. Because they can't beat anybody else. Who are they gonna be? I know you got a lot of stuff there. You don't have their schedule, do you? I got it. So this is week 10. Dallas is on the bye. They come out week 11, they have the Minnesota Vikings. A winnable game, but there's no way they stop Dalvin Cook. He beats them single-handedly. Then they play the Washington team. That is not a gimme. Then they play the Ravens. Loss. Then they play Cincinnati. Joe Burrow goes to work on them. Then they play the Niners. Forget about it. And then game 16, they play the Eagles. Maybe. There's your rundown, folks. And trust me, at the beginning of the season, when Dak was healthy, I looked at the schedule. I was like, there's no way Dallas doesn't win this division. This schedule is cake. This schedule is cake. They played the Raiders, the Falcons, the Seahawks, Cleveland, the Giants, Arizona, Washington, Philly. The only tough games at the beginning of the season, the only tough games on here that look like they might be challenges was the Rams, the Seahawks, maybe Arizona, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Baltimore, Niners. That's it. That's not even half the schedule.
Yeah, they had a lot of games within the division, and they all looked winnable early on.
That's right. They were chalking all of those up as wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Next up, Buccaneers at Panthers. Bias plus score 7.3 favors the Buccaneers. Can this be a get-right game for the Bucs, or is Teddy going to come in and upset with that short passing game that he learned from the master and do it again to Tampa Bay? I don't know if he has quite the weapons, but was it Roby getting it done for the Panthers? Who you got?
This is far from a get-right game for the Bucs. If anything, they need to get right. They need to get themselves right. It is not going to be the game that's going to do it for them. This could be a really big, bad, knockdown, drag out division game. And I thought the game with the Saints was going to be that type of game. I might even have used those words, knockdown, drag out. And it was a stinking blowout. They got a week to get themselves together, or they're going to be in for another bad one. Who has the bias in this?
Bias in this is going to Tampa Bay. And also C-Mac is not going to be there. I think he's hurt again, right?
He was questionable at the beginning of the week. They had him as doubtful today. Doubtful is not a good sign because that usually means that he's not going to practice unless all of a sudden he gets treated. Oh, that's the other thing. They said he was going for a second opinion on his shoulder. So if you're going for a second opinion, that probably means you either didn't like what the first doctor said or you don't trust what the first doctor said. That's not a good sign for him playing this week. I don't think it's a serious injury, but I don't think he's going to play this week. However, Mike Davis has been taking his spot all along and has been playing great. Running the ball, catching the ball. Mike Davis is a more than adequate fill-in. I've been going with the bias. It's not that I don't like, or, it's not that I don't like going with the bias. It's just if that's what I feel, that's what I feel. But I'm going with the Panthers on this one. Another upset. It's about to get ugly in Tampa Bay.
Going with the Panthers.
Going with the Panthers.
Ooh, okay.
You're looking at me like, you sure about that?
Like I said, Teddy B, he's going to come in with that short passing game.
It's not like they can't do it. Let's face it. The Saints defense ain't great. They're really not. They're okay. They're not great. They shut Brady and them down. They kicked a field goal, a stinking field goal. Come on now. I could see if they got beat by 2 touchdowns. I'd say, oh, that's not good. A field goal? Come on, man. I'm taking the Panthers with confidence.
Got his big boy shorts on today. Broncos at Raiders. Bias plus score 4.4 favors the Raiders. Poor Broncos. I'd like to see them win. I really would. Just, so Justin Herbert can get that feeling, just to know what it's like, because that man's taking some frustration. 4.4 bias plus score.
You mean Drew Lock?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm still thinking about Justin Herbert. It's Drew Lock. Yes, that's right. Well, Drew Lock's been doing not bad.
Drew Lock has not been doing bad. And I tell you what, It's a little scary game for the Raiders. The Raiders are not that tough. They've been playing well. They've won games. I probably picked them against them quite a few times, and they came out and won the games. I'm surprised this is a 4.4 bias. I would have thought it would have been a little closer than that, because I kind of, eyeball test, I kind of view them as being really close.
Well, you've got the 27th ranked offense of Denver versus the 24th ranked defense of the Raiders. Denver's defense is ranked 22nd. Raiders offense is 11th. So there's your difference right there.
And where's the Broncos offense rated? Where's their points for?
Their points for is 27th.
Really? That low?
They're scoring 21.8 points per game.
Okay.
So Vegas Raiders are scoring 27.2.
Okay. I actually kind of like the Broncos. I like what they're doing on offense. Melvin Gordon is not having a great season, and he's got that DUI hanging over his head. But Phillip Lindsay has gotten healthy, and they've been giving him more carries. Jerry Jeudy's playing well. Tim Patrick's playing well. So Drew Lock's got receivers. And let's remember, this is just Drew Lock's second year, and he only played basically the last half.
Yeah, he didn't get a full season then,
Of last year.
Yeah.
Right. So he's really just kind of getting a full season worth of games under his belt. And I expect him to improve a lot. He was even on the sideline. They were winning the game, and he was on the sideline dancing and rapping to himself and all kinds of stuff. So I like the Broncos. And I think the Raiders have been kind of living on the edge.
Uh-oh. I smell somebody going against the bias.
I'm going to take the Denver Broncos.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Going against the bias. Okay. Well, let's move on. And I mentioned him in the previous, I mistook him for Drew Lock. But now, here we are with Herbert and the Chargers at the Dolphins. Bias plus 10 favors the, look at that double-digit bias with the Dolphins. Ooh.
Who would have thunk it after last week?
But you got two rookie quarterbacks again. That's 2 straight weeks. Well, no, that last week it was the sophomore quarterback. But you got Tua and Herbert. So you got 2 rookies coming in. Dolphins looking good with that defense, as you know. That defense is all the difference here. Ranked 5th, whereas the offense for the Chargers is 17th. Miami's offense is ranked 10th. Chargers defense is ranked 21st. So
if this game was last week after Tua's if it was last week, in other words, it was the second game of Tua's basic, career, I would have taken the Chargers right off the bat. But after having seen how Tua played last week against a good team. Oh, and what was cool was, it was Tua versus Kyler Murray, and they met in college in a really big college game 2 years ago, Alabama versus Oklahoma, and Tua won that game too. Alabama beat Kyler Murray in Oklahoma. So I thought that was interesting. But at this point, I'm looking at this one as a real high-scoring affair. I think that Herbert has proved that it doesn't matter what the defense throws at him. He can complete passes, and he can throw the rock downfield.
Got an arm.
Absolutely. Both teams are challenged running-wise, okay? Because the Dolphins' best running back, Myles Gaskin, is hurt and will probably be out for at least 2 more weeks. The Chargers running back Eckler has been on IR almost all season, and his number one backup, Justin Jackson, is now injured. So that means they got to either go to Joshua Kelly, who's a rookie, or they got to go to some unknown dude that they bring up off the practice squad like everybody's doing. So you can throw the running games out, okay? It's going to be Tua versus Justin. Here we go. High-scoring affair. I'm going to take Tua.
Going with Miami, sticking with the bias.
Stick with the bias.
What a guy. What a guy, I tell you. Okay, next up, Bills in Arizona with the Cardinals. Bias plus score 6.1 favors the Cardinals. This is a potential intriguing game of the week.
This isn't it? I thought maybe this one might be it.
No, because there's a couple more. I'll name them. So far, I was, I actually was looking at the Washington-Detroit game. I thought that was a bit intriguing. The Miami Chargers game looks to me to be interesting. And this game is interesting. And there's one other game that's sort of leading, is the leading game in terms of being intriguing. And we'll talk about that. And in the next game, who do you have for this one?
Man, this is a tough one. Bills won a game that I swore they would lose and played well. Cardinals lost a game that I swore they would win and played well. This is a tough one. I can't remember if the Bills made any trips out west yet. They must have. I can't count that. I don't know. I really think Josh Allen's feeling himself right now. This is going to be a good game. I believe that the Cardinals have the edge on the ground. Kenyon Drake is hurt, but Edmonds has been filling in for him very, very admirably. So when you put his running ability next to Kyler's running ability, and the fact that Kyler's cannon arm can get the ball, and he hasn't been throwing to Hopkins a lot. In fact, Christian Kirk has stepped up as the number 2 receiver. Larry Fitzgerald's kind of like everybody's mentor. He doesn't even get that many snaps anymore. So he's Kyler's not leaning on Hopkins, which is actually a good thing. Okay, he's spreading the ball around pretty well. But Josh Allen is really feeling himself, and that was a really big win for them. And I believe that their defense is going to step up. And I like the way they played last week, even though they gave up a lot of points. It was Russell. I'm going to go with the Bills, and I'm going to believe that the Bills defense has decided that they have to carry some of this load off of Josh. And they got a big task at hand because Kyler Murray is a handful. But I think the Bills are going to get the job done. I'm going to take the Bills. That helps you. If they beat the Cardinals, that helps you. So,
yes, that would. However, Cardinals have the 6th ranked offense, and the Bills have the 19th ranked defense. The Bills have the 14th ranked offense, and the Cardinals have the 8th ranked defense.
That may be. But we've seen teams have turnarounds, and I think that Seahawks win was a big turnaround for the Bills last week, and I expect it to translate to a win this week.
Okay. All right. And one thing I do want to just throw out there real quick, Kyler Murray, his deep ball is looking more and more like Russell Wilson's deep ball. That high arc drop.
That's a good comparison. I like it. That's a good comparison. These baseball guys, man.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
Baseball guys. They're too short. I don't think he can make it.
Well, if short and mobile works, and many times works better than tall, immobile. So
that is correct. But we call this what? 4 years ago,
Ah,
5 years ago. Yeah,
we
yeah,
started talking about the change that was coming.
that's right.
The change coming. Yeah, and the league is making that move. All right. Speaking of looking like Russell Wilson, this is the leading candidate for intriguing game of the week as far as I'm concerned. First of all, you got a division game, which are always crazy. We love division games. Secondly, you're talking point 0.6 bias plus favoring the Rams.
Ooh, that's tight. That's tight.
Because the funny thing is the Rams are sort of they're in that fair to Midland ranking. So, you're talking about the 22nd offense. But they have the basically they're coming in second in defense. Whereas the Seattle Seahawks are first in offense and 30th defensively. So what is that? First versus second in terms of the offense versus the defense, and 30th versus 22nd, which is why the Rams have the favor here, because they're just better on defense, and they might not be great, but they're better.
Yeah, they have been better on defense. Another plus for the Rams is they're coming off a bye. So their so-called boy genius head coach has had the bye to work with and sort out any problems that he felt needed sorting out. That makes the Rams very dangerous in this week. And the Seahawks are hurting. They're hurting because they played their butts off on offense and just couldn't stop anybody last week in that Bills game. But something just popped into my head, and that was that although Josh Allen and Russell Wilson were throwing the ball all over the place, the Seattle defense did sack Josh 7 times. Now, that might have been a little carelessness on his part. They may have found something, a weakness in the Bills' offensive line, or ran some stunts or something. I didn't get into that deep, but they found something, and they did get 7 sacks. So who knows? This could be a little turnaround for the Seattle defense too. I don't think so. I don't believe it. I believe they're going to have to continue to outscore teams in order to win. So I'm going to call this one as a high-scoring battle that Russell Wilson will win and the Seahawks will win this game.
So you're going against the bias.
Yes.
Going with the Seahawks.
Yes.
All right. Well, then you're putting your faith in a historically bad defense there.
No, I'm putting my faith in Russell Wilson to play better than Jared Goff. That's where I'm putting my faith.
All right. All right. Well, let me just show you where my heart is. One more time. Niners at Saints, bias plus score 4 favors the Saints. That's logical. Coming off that big win, Niners are still limping a little bit. But it would be nice. It would be nice if we come in and can really get it done. But again, I don't see it with Nick Mullins versus that defense. Who do you have?
I'm taking the Saints all the way. Sorry. Nick Mullins is not going to get it done. There's still some question as to who's going to be healthy enough and rid of the COVID tag this week. Kendrick Bourne had it. He supposedly gave it to Ayuk. Ayuk got a false positive. He's been cleared. He'll be back. Deebo Samuel thought he had it, but he didn't have it. But he's nursing a hamstring anyway. It's still a mess over there, man. The only thing you can really hang your hat on is Jerick McKinnon. Unfortunately, I know you're not crazy about Jerick McKinnon, but he played pretty well last week. I don't know what else to say. JaMychal Hasty let me down. Mostert is probably still another week away from coming back. I believe he'll be
That's
back.
what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I believe he'll be back.
Yeah.
So, you know, if McKinnon can maybe break off some long runs, or they can keep enough of a running game going to keep the Saints defense guessing a little bit, and then get some play action stuff going, there's a possibility. They let me down. They didn't play Jordan Reed at tight end as much as I thought they would, but Dwelley played fairly well. I just think Jordan Reed is a better player.
Yeah, faster, and I believe he catches better.
Yeah. I don't know why they held him back.
They're gonna have to run the type of offense that they ran for Garoppolo against the Rams. You know, lots of screens, lots of short, get the ball out of his hands and let the other guys do the work.
And that could work for them. That could work for them. And I think the game will be competitive to a point. But Breeze is feeling it. He knows his window is closing. He's trying to go all out. The Saints, and they're at home, and I think they let a few fans in. Yeah, I'm going with the Saints.
All right. Going with the bias. Can't be mad at you on that one. All right. Next up, Bengals at Steelers. That is division 12.7. Bias plus score favors the Steelers. And we all like Joe Burrow. This will be his chance to show a little bit against a tough defense.
Well, sir.
Well, sir, he said.
This one, although the bias is fairly big, should be a little bit better than people think. Again, we got a team that was playing probably better than people expected them to. Joe Burrow has played very well. AJ Green was starting to emerge, and they're coming off a bye also, by the way. This last week was their bye week, so they had a chance to heal up. Although I don't think Joe Mixon is all the way back yet. Nah, I don't think he's all the way back yet. But another rookie, a rookie receiver, T. Higgins, has been playing great, and him and Burrow seem to have a real good rapport. So this could be a bit of a tough game, a little tussle for the Steelers. I expect the Steelers to win. I will pick the Steelers. I will go with the bias, but I find this to be a bit of an intriguing game. As well as Burrow has played, I think the Cincinnati Bengals are ready to start making some noise in that division. And let's face it, look at that division. Ravens, Steelers, Browns, who haven't shown the potential that they should, and Cincinnati, who has shown potential that nobody thought they had. Stacked division for the future.
Cincinnati is ranked 20th both on offense and defense. The Steelers are ranked 5th on offense and 4th on defense. So they're going to have to show something if they have any hope of winning this game. So, all right, sticking with the Steelers. Next up, we have Ravens at Patriots. Bias plus score 14.7 favors the Ravens. Man, anytime in the past, in Cam's heyday, you'd have Cam versus Lamar. That'd be a really exciting game. This could be an exciting game still. Could be. I mean, you're looking at the Ravens having the 8th ranked offense. The Pittsburgh, I mean, New England still has the 12th ranked defense. However, New England has the 28th ranked offense, in Baltimore is numero uno on defense. Ergo, the challenge for Cam Newton and the Patriots. How to score, how to put some points up. They don't have to put a lot, you know. I mean, let's face it. Where the Baltimore is only scoring on average 28 points per game. So it's not completely out of reach. Not completely out of reach. Who do you got?
I'm not a Patriots hater. There's a lot of Patriots haters out there who hated Tom Brady, hated the Patriots, hate Belichick, hate all the Super Bowls they won, and feel like this is their comeuppance and they deserve all the bad things that happened to them. I just want to make it clear I'm not one of them people. Now, that being said, I had a fantasy discussion with my daughter, who's quite a fantasy player in her own right. She has the Rams defense and she has the Patriots defense on her fantasy team. She was trying to figure out which one to play. And I told her, you probably don't want to play the Patriots defense because although they were ranked high, they've been kind of consistently falling and falling and falling. You definitely don't want to play them in this game. I'm taking the Ravens. Even if somehow, some way, the Patriots could figure out a way to slow down the Ravens running backs, which has been done by a couple different teams, there's no way in the world they're going to stop Lamar on the ground. They just don't have the athletes. I don't see it. They're lacking in the secondary. They're lacking at linebacker. And your linebackers are extremely important when you're dealing with a running quarterback. They're going to be in trouble. It's not going to be a blowout. It'll probably be a tight game. I don't expect the Ravens to score a lot of points, but I do expect them to win. And the main reason is Cam ain't going to be able to get nothing done against the Ravens defense.
That is the Sunday night game. Am I not correct?
I believe so.
That's your Sunday night game. So that should be fun, man. That should be a fun game. All right. Going with the bias on that one. So, all right. So wrapping it up on a Monday night. Vikings at Bears. Bias plus score 0.9 favors the Bears. Can the Bears stop Dalvin Cook?
No.
Can they hope to contain him?
No. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The Bears have the bias?
Have the bias.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. The Bears are like a really nice yacht that's sprung a leak somewhere and it's really small, but you know it's there and you can't quite find it. And you're starting to sink and you don't know what to do. That's the Bears, okay? Dalvin Cook is going to run all over these fools, okay? And they can load up the box all they want because if they want to make it a match between Cousins and Foles, I'm taking Cousins, right? I got Vikings all the way in this one. Nick Foles has shown me absolutely nothing. They're still on Philadelphia talk radio going back and forth about that because Brett Favre had an interview on Colin Cowherd or somebody or First Take or something and said he felt like the Eagles should have kept Foles and got rid of Wentz. And people are still talking about this. Okay, if you ask me right now, who's the better quarterback, I would say the guy leading the league in interceptions is better. The guy caught lightning in a bottle. The team caught lightning in a bottle, and Nick Foles ended up being the quarterback of a Super Bowl winning team. That's it. It's over. There's nothing else. There was nothing before that, and there's going to be nothing after that. Somebody tried to argue, talking about, well, you keep saying he never played a full season. He played a full season when they know he did not. Michael Vick started that year. Stop it. What is it with the Nick Foles? What is it? Is it because he's like a nice guy?
You know that my perspective on Nick Foles is that he is one of the best backups that you could have. He's a quintessential pinch hitter. You know, you bring him in. The biggest question we had was how he would handle a full season if he had to handle the meat of the season. And that's where he seems to be struggling in the meat of the season. So, yeah, the Bears right now are favored. As you look at Chicago, they have the 7th ranked defense against Minnesota's 12th ranked offense. But Minnesota's been coming on in the last few weeks. And again, Dalvin Cook is the question. So if you can't stop him, if you can't contain him, I can understand you going with the Vikings. That makes sense. We shall see. We shall see if the Bears can at least control him, and if Foles can get a decent game under his belt. But at 0.9, that's less than 1 point as a differential, as a winning average over 9 games. That's like 9 points. In terms of your net points differential. So not a big difference, and it is a division game.
I feel like they're meeting in the middle. I feel like the Bears were here and are slowly coming this way, and the Vikings were here and they're slowly coming this way. And there's your 0.9 right there. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about this. I think the Vikings, I don't want to say they're a team on the rise, okay, but they're a team that has ascended to a point where they're at least better than the Bears. Even though the Bears have the better defense, they're just going to take Dalvin Cook and pound him pound the Bears over the head with him until they quit. There's no way he won't get less than 20 carries.
As he should. I mean, he should, he's their go-to guy. He's what's driving the train, the engine that's driving the train right now. So can't fault you for that decision. So you're going with the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins.
If you want to put it that way, yeah.
I'm just wondering if Khalil Mack is going to have anything to say about that. That's what I'm wondering at this particular point.
He won't if Cousins don't have to throw the ball much.
That's the question.
I don't remember anybody praising Khalil Mack about his run stopping ability.
He's had a pretty quiet year, actually.
Yeah.
Somewhat quiet,
Yeah.
Well, as one of the fun things that we do with the Bias Plus report, we look back on the previous week to see who was the Bias Plus Buster of the Week. Congratulations to the New Orleans Saints.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
An unfavorable Bias Plus score of 9.6 against those Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but a net win of plus 35, giving them a Bias Plus score of 44.6.
Yeesh.
Yeah, I was pretty sure at one point I posted on, I don't know if I tweeted or Facebook or whatever, that the Saints were playing like they wanted to be the Bias Plus Busters of the week. So
You did. Yeah, you sent me that. I saw that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Buster is a good word too, because that's the way the Buccaneers looked.
I'm telling you.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, Tampa Bay was a bust last week, that's for sure, and got busted. All right. That wraps up the Bias Plus for week 10 of the 2020 season. Next up, stay tuned as we look at commentary. One great thing about Ben and Barry, nobody's paying us any money. We can say what we want. So, see, and for the next segment on commentary. So again, welcome to Ben and Barry on football. This is the commentary section of our shows. Let's get right into it, Mr. Dickerson. We had some news come out this week. The NFL is potentially looking that if things don't work out, that they would expand the playoffs to 16 teams each, with each conference, or 16 teams with each conference having 4 wild card teams. So I don't know if you have much to say about that. That came out. That's only if push comes to shove, though.
Yeah, well, it's good that they have a contingency plan. In these days and times, with this COVID thing, it's something that you need to have. I don't want to say I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope it doesn't come to that, because if it does, that means that the NFL is going to, which it already kind of has, kind of model society and this explosion of the virus is starting to, rear its ugly head in the NFL, even with all the precautions that they're taking. That being said, if in fact that were to happen, one thing that I believe would be justice served is if by some way, by some chance, the Eagles win the NFC East, they may have to travel instead of getting the automatic home game. Because part of the contingency plan, if I read it correctly, is they will then revert to a seeding system and not go basically by division winners automatically host.
Really?
Yeah, I could be wrong.
That's big. That would be big. I mean, because there's a lot of people who want that anyway.
Exactly. And it's been talked about in the past. I don't think the Players Association liked it. So something, there was some reason why they didn't adopt it, but it has been discussed.
Interesting. All right, next up, in the news around the nation, the football news around the nation, in addition to the previous announcement, the NFL owners approved a proposal that will reward teams for developing minority coaches and front office executives who go on to become head coaches and general managers for other organizations. Now, the thing about that, which is weird to me anyway, is that what you're talking about here, see if I can bring this up. A team that loses a minority assistant coach who becomes a head coach or loses the personnel executive to become a general manager will receive a third-round compensatory pick in each of the next 2 drafts. A team that loses 2 minority staffers to head coach and GM positions will receive 3 third-round picks.
What? In one draft?
I believe that's over like a 2 or 3 year period, like 1 a year.
Oh, okay.
But it still sounds backwards to me. The team that is losing the coaches is the team that's getting these picks, not the team that's reaching out and bringing in a minority, into a higher level position. You would think that they would be getting rewarded for taking that, but then people were saying that, well, then people will say that, they just wanted to get the picks, or, there was some ulterior motive for taking a minority, coach. So they kind of went backwards to eliminate that as a critique of whatever those choices would be. So that's kind of where it stands right now. And again, go to Ben and Barron Football and you can read those articles in full. What do you have on that?
I kind of get what you're saying, but I'm kind of looking at it a different way. In other words, this is kind of the Rooney Rule 2.0, so to speak. And I think that part of the reason, or one of the reasons that was given for these minority candidates to not be as plentiful as maybe they would hope, or be as ready as some of these teams might make it sound, and that's why they're not getting hired, was because they weren't being developed. They weren't being put in positions to be or to get the type of development that they needed to secure these kind of jobs. So I can kind of see the reward going to the team that does the developing. But also notice they said if the team develops a guy and he ends up becoming a head coach or general manager for someone else, the team that developed him gets the reward. What if he becomes that team's head coach?
I hadn't thought of that.
They don't get anything.
They get
unless that's in the fine print that we haven't read far enough. If you develop this guy and he ends up becoming your head coach or your GM, there's no reward for that. I guess they're thinking the reward is you developed him and he earned the spot and you got him and you should be happy.
So if Andy Reid decides to retire and Eric Bieniemy takes the position as head coach.
They get nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
They get nada. Oh my goodness. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, they get a heck of an offensive mind. How about that? That's their.
Oh, I mean, yeah, they got the good coach and all of that kind of stuff. But, I mean, really, that's an interesting point. And I don't remember seeing that discern. So that's a good insight from you. So, okay, we'll take that into account. Everybody needs to make sure that they listen to Ben and Barry on football, because I haven't heard anybody go there in terms of that. So good work, Mr. Dickerson. Good work. All right. We like to talk about good things that the NFL does. Here's one. Dolphins to donate $75 million to cancer research at Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center. $75 million goes a long way in helping victims of cancer and helping that research move right along there. So just wanted to throw that out. Anything on that?
No, except for that's a really great thing. $75 million for cancer research is very big and very important.
Very important. And again, we're at Ben and Barry on football on our Facebook page, so you can go there and read more in depth about that. Ben, let's quickly look at the passing numbers. You mentioned last week Matt Ryan in first place in terms of passing yardage, right ahead of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and coming in fourth, Russell Wilson. What do you think about this list?
This is quite a list. I knew about Matt Ryan just because, in doing research on the games and watching the games, I've heard it said, I've read it. The first time I heard it, I was a little surprised because the guy throws a lot. So there was a good chance he was going to be up there. But yeah, he's leading the league, and he has been leading the league for a few weeks now. Patrick Mahomes, I'm not surprised at. Josh Allen's been slinging it around, and so has Russell. But Teddy Bridgewater, I'm shocked.
Teddy.
He's barely, my math isn't good. He's barely, 100 yards behind Russell? That's
Not far.
That's amazing. I'm extremely surprised, especially considering that we're always talking about him as a game manager and throwing the ball short.
Right.
But that's kind of a tribute to his receivers and his running backs, not just McCaffrey, but the guy that's taking his place right now, Mike Davis. Like I said, these guys all catch the ball. Mike Davis catches the ball out of the backfield. So that's a lot of yak. Put it that way, okay? That's not a lot of air yards. That's a lot of yak yards right there.
Look who is sandwiched between two rookies.
No. First of all, kudos to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. I've been loving on these cats since they started. They really can sling it. Their teams need them to be able to throw the ball quite a bit, and they are getting the job done. And they are top and bottom sandwiching Mr. Aaron Rodgers. That's a great top 10 right there. Teddy's the only one. I don't want to say he doesn't belong, but Teddy's numbers are a little skewed. Brady's numbers are a little skewed too, but Teddy's numbers are really skewed. That's a lot of yak. If they separated air yards from yak yards, then you would see a big discrepancy there.
Hey, look, disciple of Breeze.
Right. And he's not even on the top 10.
Yeah.
He lives there.
Yeah. That's so interesting. All right. What else we got here? So we talked about this play, and I wanted to give everybody a chance to kind of see this play. I'm going to see, can I make this full screen? There you go, Benny.
Cool.
So you got Kansas City Chiefs and you got the Panthers. The Chiefs are on about the 2-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
And let's watch this action.
So What you have is the quarterback going in motion to take the snap. And at first, as he begins to walk away, the first two things that pop into my mind are he's got a receiver out wide that he's trying to communicate. So he wants to walk that direction of just a few steps and verbalize or give a hand signal or something like that. And then the second thing that flashed into my head was if that wasn't it, that he was going to go out, flank the line, and they were going to run some kind of wildcat formation because the back was still back there. Then all of a sudden, he starts running back the other way. Here comes the snap, bing, bang, bang, boom. What can I say, man? The Chiefs' offense is like on another level. Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are on another level. We used to praise Josh McDaniels for some of the stuff he came up with, but Reid and Bieniemy right now are just, I don't even know what to say, man. They're on another level.
I've never seen a quarterback take a snap while on the move. That's the first for me. Normally,
I've seen them call for the ball and knowing that it's a rollout play, the center snapping on a little angle, and as soon as the snap comes, they start running, catch the snap like this, and keep running. I've seen that.
Okay, I haven't seen that either.
I've seen that in our flag league.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So you know what I mean. But that there, he actually was the man in motion. He was in motion before the snap.
And you would think, because normally in football, at the snap, everybody's set. That's
right.
like
Unless
almost
there's
the
a guy
rule.
that's actually in motion. Because a lot of times you don't see as much of the. It's like you said. Normally everybody's set. Even when they send somebody in motion, they usually motion over to the other side and then they reset.
Now, lately, they've been doing a little more of the Canadian football thing with the back running around in the backfield. Now, he might still be in
I've
motion.
seen a couple of teams, they send the guy in motion behind the quarterback in the pistol, and then he doubles back and goes back this way. But a lot of times when they do that, they're probing the defense to see if they can figure out, do we have man, do we have zone, who's going to pick this guy up because that tells me what area is going to be open, that kind of thing. So they'll send the guy in motion, see if somebody trails him. If guy trails him, that pretty much tells you they're a man. If he doesn't trail, that means they're in zone. You know what I mean? So all that going back and forth and all, they're trying to figure something out. But they're doing it on purpose. And it's usually for the quarterback to see how the defense reacts.
I had to go back and look at that like numerous times. I'm like, man, these guys are just ridiculous, man. These guys are ridiculous. All right, fun stuff there. And we'll wrap it up with this. Bills Mafia has donated over $275,000 to, I'm going to say this, I hope it's right, O'Shells Children's Hospital, honoring Josh Allen's grandma.
Yeah, I'm not sure about
they started out like with a few thousand.
It just took on a life of its own. His grandmother had passed. He decided to play in the game to honor her. The word got out, and Bills fans are kind of organized. Actually, Bills fans are kind of infamous, not in the same way as the Eagles fans, but kind of close to it. Usually when you hear people talk about the Bills Mafia, they're talking about outside tailgating, drinking mustard out of the squirt bottle and climbing up on their cars and jumping off and jumping through tables and stuff like that while they're drunk and all. That's what Bills Mafia is famous for. This is really big time. This is a big thing, and it has grown. I think at the start of the game, it was like $50,000 or $60,000 had been donated, and they were saying how wonderful that is. And what's the total now?
$275K.
Amazing.
That's amazing. That
Mhm.
is amazing. So congratulations to Bills Mafia. We like to highlight anything that the NFL does that is positive. Again,
And
I'm
even
a
the
Dallas,
fans,
huh?
and even the fans, we usually talk about the fans throwing stuff and booing and fighting and all that. This is right here. This is all about the fans.
All about the fans, and it's positive. And you know what
Yep.
I was going to say, I'm a Dallas philosophically, so you always know that there's a positive and a negative, and so often people focus on that negative. So we want to make sure that we balance it and focus on the positive. Okay. Well, look, great show. We covered a lot of ground tonight. Finishing up on a positive note with two NFL teams doing some great donating and things of that nature. And I don't have anything else comment wise, so it's up to you, Mr. Dickerson. You got anything?
Um, I'm really, really going to be rooting hard for the Giants this weekend. So if you live in my neighborhood anywhere and you hear me screaming and yelling, that's what it's going to be about, because we are now within striking distance of the dreaded Philadelphia Eagles, a team that thought they were going to run away with the division as weak as it is. Like, that's something to be proud of. Other than that, all I can say is go Noles.
All I'll add is wear your mask. Wear your mask. Peace.